I am with an old friend who's been doing incredible things since the last time I saw you, Mr. Charles Soule. What is it like being at New York Comic Con with everything you have going on, 8 Billion Genies? I mean, how are things going?
Things are going very well. Thank you for asking. First of all, it's great to be back at New York Comic Con. You know, it obviously there were a couple years where it wasn't really going for many reasons, and now it feels like the con is really fully back. I know my table's been super busy. You mentioned 8 Billion Genies, which is a big book I have going right now with Image Comics. A lot of people have been interested in checking that out, so it's been fun to meet fans of that and talk to them. I'm also doing a lot of stuff with Star Wars, which is when you and I first met. It was when my Darth Vader series launched, and it's been a lot of great stories since then. So
I miss those days. And speaking of like Star Wars, but also like She-Hulk and Daredevil, like you have such an array of successful runs now. Do you find do you see fans gravitating more to certain things that come up and like get signed or ask you questions about? Because I mean, it's kind of cool that you have this whole gamut of successful runs now.
Yeah, you know, it's been funny because I'm at the phase in my career where like things that I've written are starting to pop up in TV shows and movies and so on, and so that's interesting. So, for example, She-Hulk, the season that's airing now on Disney Plus took a lot of inspiration from Dan Slott's incredible run and also from my run with Javier Pulido and Ron Wimberly, which is great. And I worked as the legal consultant on that show. I used to be an attorney, so I got to see what they were going to do on that show early. So like I knew, you know, Daredevil was going to pop up and all those things quite a while ago. And that show being on now has sparked a resurgence of interest in what I did. So people are coming up to me with those issues, talking to me about it more than they would. So what I'm seeing now is, you know, something happens with Swamp Thing and people are like, oh, wow, that guy wore Swamp Thing. So it circles around. Right now I'm hearing a lot about She-Hulk, as I said, and Star Wars is always a perennial. You know, people always want to talk Star Wars.
I've been having a blast with She-Hulk. What have you thought of the season? I mean, obviously you said we're a consultant on the show, and it has been so different and unique, and you said inspired from one of your runs and then other runs as well. What was it like watching it now? And I'm sure you were watching it come together and whatnot, but also seeing the fans really gravitate towards it, and it's something that's very unique and different than anything we've seen thus far.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, from the jump, this was designed. She-Hulk was designed to be a very different take on Marvel Universe stuff, MCU stuff. And so I think they've executed incredibly well, maintaining, a lot of the elements of the great comic runs, the fourth wall breaking, the comedy, the tone that makes She-Hulk different than a lot of other characters in all of superhero storytelling. So I'm thrilled that they've managed to translate that to the screen as well as they have. The cast is great. Tatiana Maslany is amazing. Jessica Gao is showrunner, putting it all together. It was great. It was clearly made by people who deeply cared about what She-Hulk is. And She-Hulk kind of let's be honest, is kind of a niche character. She-Hulk is not Captain America, but it doesn't matter, right? When you they're all great characters, and when you treat them with care and make sure the adaptation is loving and thoughtful, as this one is, it's great. So it's been neat to see it literally from the inception of some of these ideas when they were in my comic, and then seeing them to, whatever, but they were, to see them all the way out to their execution on the screen is really amazing. It's been really cool, really cool.
And it's such a smart show. And you mentioned obviously being in law. How did I probably asked this years ago when we spoke, but how did you make the transition from law to obviously? I mean, this is insane. Yeah. And obviously, I think we're seeing more and more people from different walks of life penning comics, really putting their input in, and really getting such a substance behind these runs. How did that transition happen for you?
I mean, it was really just I get asked that question a lot because a lot of people are curious, how did you change from life A to life B? And it was really just a decision to do it, as simple as that sounds. The decision was made many years before it actually was executed, because, you can make a big choice, but you have to just keep sort of aiming toward it, and every decision you make moves you toward the goal, and this was kind of one of those. So I kind of made the decision to try to be a writer not long after graduating from law school, but it took me 5 years to really get serious about it, another 4 years to get published, and then another 4 years after that before I got my first gig at DC Comics, which was Swamp Thing. So it took a really long time, I decided to be a writer in 2000 and didn't have that DC book until 2013. But I never gave up. I was persistent and just made a lot of little decisions that added up to the big one.
And thank God you never gave up too. And we got to talk before you go. 8 Billion Genies. I mean, one of those books that just like caught fire and obviously picked up by Amazon.
Yeah, great.
How pumped are you for that? And also, did you ever see this coming? And like, how excited are you to start, obviously working on that project and kind of seeing it take it like to another level?
So the premise of 8 Billion Genies is that everyone on Earth, all 8 billion of us, at exactly the same moment gets a genie and one wish. So it's not 3 wishes, it's 1 wish. And the way that premise seems to have flipped on its head the conventional idea of what a genie story is, seems to have really, really resonated with people. I created it with my creative partner, Ryan Brown. We also made a great book called Curse Words together before this, but this was just the next idea we were excited about at the time. Like we didn't, I'm not going to say we didn't know it would be good. We knew it would be good, but the idea that something about this concept has connected so deeply with people right now. And I think it's all because we're sort of thinking about, wouldn't it be nice to be able to make a wish that would come true with this particular world we have right now? And so whatever the reason, it feels fresh. It's something that people are interested in. Ryan's art is incredible. I think he's one of the best sort of visual humorists in all of comics. So like when you read it, you're getting a real meal of entertainment. You're getting humor, you're getting pathos, you're getting like a thoughtful, weird premise that we executed, I think, in interesting ways. So I don't know why people love it, but they definitely seem to. We've been hearing a lot about it this week, and it's been great. And then there's the other element you referenced, which is that the story was picked up by Amazon Studios for adaptation as like a franchise, like a thing, right? So it's like TV and movie and all these things at the same time. And that is just wild. And that all of that is sort of, it's kicking off now, and Ryan and I are involved with it, and just sort of seeing how the basic concept of 8 Billion Genies on Earth is being spun out into other, just other adaptations, other ways of playing with that premise is really cool.
And there's no one with more experience from like transitioning and doing that and also working on different levels of like medium than you. Yeah. So perfect person to be doing that.
Well, I hope so. Thank you for saying so.
Sorry to put you in that situation.
Man, I hope so. I'm just thrilled with like all of it, whether it's, novels or comics or film, TV stuff. Like I have exactly the creative career that I wanted when I made that decision so long ago. I get to do comics with my own ideas, comics with incredible characters from Star Wars and Marvel and massive things like that. I get to write novels. I get to work on film and TV projects. This is absolutely the creative career I envisioned for myself when I made that decision all those years ago. And the idea that I'm getting to do it that way it's amazing. It's wonderful.
And the last question I'm going to ask, that we ask everyone, because that's what we're all about, and it's probably the hardest one. What is your like nerd or fandom origin story? Like your first memories of just finding something you gravitated towards?
This is not going to be a surprise, but it's definitely Star Wars. I mean, that's the thing. Like when I was little, I didn't see A New Hope in theaters. I was too young, but I saw like a re-release of it, and then I definitely saw Empire in the theaters. So like, and then it was just my brothers and sister and I getting all the action figures we could, like doing chores to save up a couple bucks to buy, like all of that stuff. It was always part of my life. Other stuff came in, but Star Wars has been there since as long as I can remember. And here I am today,
That's the best answer. Thank you so much, my friend.